And when all my strength is gone, in you I hear a song, I look to you. I look to you. When all my strength is gone, and all the levees are broken, and all the walls are crashing down, I can still depend on you. I look to you. You are. I look to you. I look to you, yeah. When melodies are gone and you hear a song, I look to you. I look to you.
Very touching. Thanks, Madge. That was very, very sweet. My mom's 90 years old, so we know that we have more time behind us than in front of us with her. And every moment that we can embrace her or be embraced by her. And I'm sure you would say the same thing about your mother. There's nothing like your mama. And Daddy's gone. Daddy's been gone, be 5 years in March. And I actually had a video. I didn't get it here in time for you to see, just to honor my mom. But we will this afternoon when some people are coming by the house. But looking to her, Madge is saying that she looks to everything that her grandmother represents, whether that's her parents, grandparents, godparents, siblings, cousins. There's a lot in our mother. My mother's the matriarch of our family, the eldest on both sides, who's still alive. And so she wants to go out to San Diego and see her friends. I said, if you want to see your friends, you're going to have to go to heaven. Everybody goes. She has, nobody's left out there. I went out there a couple of weeks ago, and the ones who are still here don't really realize it. So my subject is the power of agreement in covenant, and there was a lot in that song that relates to what I've said. Majesty turned 23 on the 29th, which is my dad's 70th, 93rd birthday. She was born on dad's 70th, so Madge had her birthday party Friday night. We're having a little something for Mother today. So I've been really busy celebrating the covenant I have with people I love. It's hard to think about Mom without thinking about Dad. The commitment that you have to your parents, or that they have to you, or the covenant, I should say, because the word covenant and commitment and contract are similar. One's a little bit more clinical, which would be the contract. The commitment is of the heart, but the covenant is of the heart and the mind. When you make up your mind to cut covenant or make covenant with somebody, you do that automatically with your parents and with your siblings, and then later on with your friends, and sometimes more with your friends than your siblings, and then your lovers later on in life, girlfriends and boyfriends, and people that you commit to beyond that, and there are many, many more commitments that come. So we make a contract or a covenant inadvertently with life, and sometimes life expresses itself in various textures and intonations of love. Love is not all the same level. It's not all the same feeling. It doesn't have all the same experience or all the same expression. In fact, we're still grappling with what love means, and we usually make covenant or cut covenant with something or somebody we love. But love is emotional. Love can be raggedy. Love messes around. Love jumps and hops and squats and fusses and cusses and likes and dislikes and punishes and condemns and condones and embraces and releases. And there's a whole brand and breed of personalities that love expresses itself as. And we're all here needing post-traumatic syndrome help because we love and we live. And love is a kind of disease that we're all afflicted with, and nobody can cure it. You can only treat it. Talk to me, somebody. Scripture says love is patient. I say love is a patient in need of affordable health care. Thank you, Mr. President, and on down the line. Sort of the can we all just get along thing. Who said to Rodney King the famous statement after having been brutally beaten by police officers, and he was unarmed, and the whole country convulsed. But his statement that he left with us, he's now transitioned in death to his next reality. But the last thing he would have left with us that we remember him by is not just him being pummeled and beaten mercilessly by police officers, but we remember him saying, "Can't we all just get along?" Which means we have to make covenant even with the things that are awkward and uncomfortable and inaccurate about life. There's a lot of things about our own selves, our own personifications or personalities with which we struggle, but because that's part of who we are, and even part of who you are only manifests at various times, depends on what kind of situation you're going through. Sometimes you're tender and you have to fight tears. Sometimes you're angry and you cry tears. Sometimes you're hurt or you're ashamed or you're alone, and tears have their place. They're part of the 100,000 miles of arteries that have water vamping and pulsing through them. Salt water usually, hemo, blood. And it represents the 9 months that we tread water before we start breathing air and oxygen. And that 70% of the Earth's surface is water. 96% of the planet is water if you include all the rivers and tributaries and ponds and the moisture in the water and the sky and the rocks that hold water. There's waters everywhere. We're full of moisture. And that's a covenant. There's a covenant with the universe to rain. There's a covenant for floods and with floods. There's a covenant with access and excess. All of it's part of this interesting phenomenon, or I call, as you know, a sexually transmitted disease that you call life. Your mama and them were intimate, even if they weren't married, and here you is. Here you are. Here we are. Amos 3:3, KJV, can two walk together except they be agreed? How can two or one or more walk together except they be agreed? In Hebrew, that's ya'ad, and it means to fix or focus upon an agreement. How can two walk together unless they are fixed on or fitted for or focused on some kind of an agreement or an appointment or an assignment? It means to, in the Hebrew also, to meet at a certain time or to summons, like for trial. That's all part of the word agreed. To invite, to invoke, to engage in marriage, to be drawn to or attracted to. How can two walk together unless there's some kind of attraction, some kind of summons? There should be, when I see my mom often, there's now, especially these days, there's a summons of me to push my face against hers and kiss her or hold her hands or tell her to go back in her bedroom and be still. Same with my little daughter. There's an agreement, there's a covenant with love that I do not know how to violate. I can try to ignore it. I can try to push it aside or put it to rest or make it less emotional, but it's there. And love also has a covenant with you. You cannot help but love. You can act it out by choice, but love is automatic. It's like breathing. It comes natural. And naturally to and through all of us. So I was thinking about covenants. How many have I made inadvertently? How many have I made deliberately? How many have I made unawareingly or unconsciously? or ignorantly. I did not realize I was making the covenant, but I'm actually living and walking, talking, thinking, and being the covenant. We do that automatically. We're drawing attention to it this whole month. Agreement usually means harmony or accordance in opinion or feelings or in a position. The result of agreeing. That's agreement is the result of agreeing. Think of the things with which you agree right now in your life and how they affect the people around you. Or think of the things with which you have made covenant that are making you feel uncomfortable or less comforted or even angry. Sometimes the covenant we have with life expresses itself in anger. Sometimes suicidal people do it by just ending their life or looking for something that they think is broader or better than this life that they can't access unless they end it. There's all kinds of rationale because we don't know what death is. We do have this fantasy about the continuum of life, about moving on and continuing to exist. In fact, we're survivalists by nature. It's our number one instinct is to survive. And most of us never get revived unless we die from the survival and then need to be revived. People get rival and revive mixed up. So who are you in agreement with and how? The Greek word for agreement is symphoneo, where we get the English word symphony. Doesn't mean to sound alike, doesn't even mean to sound, it doesn't mean to sound the same or alike. It just means to sound together. Now that's covenant. There's an agreement that we have all made to not necessarily look alike, sound alike, be alike, think alike. Here at in this community, common unity, or this communion, this common union, we together as a church at All Souls, but we as human beings, a part of the human species, have agreed, whether inadvertently or deliberately, that we will live and walk on this planet of diversity and plurality without necessarily having the same mind as everybody. We can mind the same things without having the same mind about everything. That's a covenant. You often hear me say if a couple have the same opinion about everything all the time, one of y'all ain't necessary. If the piano only had ivory or only had onyx, ebony, then it would all be a monotone. We thank God for diversity, and we are actually committed to diversities. There are different groups that want to do this ethnic cleansing. So there's on one, and then some want to do ethnic or human improvement by making us the finest, smartest, most physically and mentally and supposedly emotionally astute people. There are experiments going on right now of people, it's called eugenics, people trying to make the human person or being or race better. Tends to lead to ethnic cleansing. Hitler used things that he learned from Americans trying to improve on who we are. It wasn't starting in racism. It manifested later in racism. Who do you get along with that you don't get along with? Or who do you get along with that you don't live with and you don't hang with and you don't like and you don't necessarily love directly? You love them indirectly, but you get along with them. The more important question is, who do you live with whom you do not get along? Who do you live with that you don't like? You love them great. You love them to life or death, but you do not like anything about them, and you're yet living with them. Starting with you, the person you see in the mirror. What covenant do you have with you and the part of you that you actually detest? If there is a part of you that you detest. Most of us have parts of ourselves that we don't like. It could be a little pimple, a little mole, a little wrinkle. It could be hair that ain't there, or hair that's barely there, or hair that has come out of the closet and become an openly gray. I got that kind too. Covenant basically means commitment, which is a state of quality of being dedicated to a cause or an activity or an ideology or a purpose. To what things are you committed? Coming here every Sunday or anywhere every Sunday, there's very few people that go to church every Sunday. In most congregations, about 18% of the people handle most of the obligation and carry the weight for the whole church. 30 years of pastoring taught us that. We had about 18% of the people that gave 80% of the money. We had 18% of the people that did 80% of the volunteerism. We had about 18% of the people that did 80% of the work around the church. Came to every teaching, every revival, every prayer meeting, everything. That 18, we got ours up to around 35%, and we did that deliberately because people are casual about covenants. How many of you have a favorite grocery store? Now, is that the only grocery store you go to? Or do you go to it every day or every week? You go when you grocery shop. Most of us have a favorite restaurant. We don't use it all the time. Or favorite theater. Or favorite part of town that we like to hang out with. Or favorite friend. But the covenant changes even in that relationship. The stores stay open. You pass 15 stores going to your favorite. I don't know how many churches I passed getting here this morning. And how many, I used to think back in the days when I was holding revivals in small cities like in Syracuse and West Kansas and these little towns of 2,000 or 3,000, and I'd come off a 3, 4, 15-day fast, ready for God to let me walk on water and cast every devil out and heal every person and save the world. I'd be on my way to church and I couldn't count the number of cars going the opposite direction. It wasn't but 1,000 people in the town. Where are all these people going? I was thinking, ain't nobody gonna be there tonight. And sometimes it's exactly the way it was. Wasn't a soul in there. But yet I had a covenant to ministry. Crowds. I had a covenant to crowds. I don't have crowds everywhere anymore. But I had a covenant with the crowds. I had a covenant with empty chairs or less packed pews or an audience of a few. I can talk to 15 or 16,000 on the internet in any given hour. But in person, any place I go, I'm not going to have 15,000 people come unless you put thousands of dollars, rent a building, have a bunch of sound system and lights and promotion, and then they may not come. Now you can go on the internet and say something stupid and have, and it can go viral. That's how quickly and crazy the world is that we live in today. Now, note this from Alfred P. Sloan, an American business executive in the automobile industry. He was a longtime president and chairman, CEO of General Motors. And he built, a sustained business through agreement. He says, if we are all in agreement on the decision, then I propose we postpone further discussion of this matter until our next meeting to give ourselves time to develop disagreement and perhaps gain some understanding of what the decision is all about. Let me read it to you again. I thought it was interesting. If we're all in agreement, this is the chairman of the board. If we're all in agreement on this decision, then I propose we postpone further discussion of this matter until our next meeting to give ourselves time to develop disagreement and perhaps gain some understanding of what the decision is all about. That's important because when you all agree all at once, sometimes you need to reinvestigate what you're all agreeing about. Sometimes you stop and see, give yourself some little time, and then figure out the things about it that you might not be in agreement with, and then discuss the matter again, and it actually makes it a purer, more powerful project. We have to agree to disagree in order to be in covenant. You cannot be in covenant unless you make a decision to be not necessarily disagreeable, but to disagree on certain points. We'll never agree on everything. There's too many people in here. There's too many people in our lives to have solid, unpenetrable agreement on anything. There's always diversity, and we learn how to make covenant not just with the person, but the personalities and the personifications and the diversity of the way that person is apparent or appears or disappears. Some of you have friends who have a trait in you that you just love, but every once in a while that trait literally disappears. Depends on what mood they are in that day. You have that same trait, and yours disappears. Sometimes you put it out. Sometimes it accidentally leaves on its own. Sometimes you just misplace it. And you know that inwardly you are a very kind, loving person, but occasionally you get angry and indignant, and you say ugly things and think ugly things and do ugly things. Talk to me, somebody. There's some very, very ugly, mean people that are always in that area, but every once in a while, they're kind. totally out of character. They were generous and warm, and it shocked you. You almost did not know what to do because they were kind. You were shocked by kindness because you're so used to meanness, even your own. Some things that normally tick you off or trigger you, sometimes they don't. It's like going to your favorite restaurant and not enjoying your favorite meal once in a while. Or we go to church many times. Every service is slightly different. We appreciate different things about different portions of the service. Same is true of life. How do we handle all these? Lots of choices, lots of voices out there. And in our heads and in our mind's eye, we have to make a choice. Can there be agreement in argument or vice versa? Arguing couples often stay together longer than those who aren't confrontive enough, and things stack up. You have to agree to disagree because of the larger and more comprehensive picture. If you never ever feel any conflict or any friction, you're not moving, because it's a law of physics. Anything in motion causes friction. If you have no friction in your life right now, you're probably not alive. I use friction as traction for positive forward thrust. If it's all slippery and oily and wonderful and giddy and grinny, you won't make much progress. So you should say thank you, even for the parts of within the covenant that you dislike or you disagree with. This is our great covenant, we say here every Sunday. This is our great contract. This is our great commitment. This is our great commission. The word covenant or contract comes from a Latin word, contractus. And it's from another word that means drawn together or tightened, from a verb that suggests together. The contract is a coming together. Covenant, coven, like a witch's coven, convene, and convention all come from the same root, togetherness. When you have a conversation, you're having a convention, or you're convening to enter covenant or a coven. If you are in covenant, you are in a coven. All y'all witches. Everybody in here is a witch. If you've cut covenant or coven with anybody, just which witch are you? There's all kind of witches or warlocks or sorcerers where we are into stuff anyway. A covenant is a spiritual and intimate and ethereal and esoteric and sixth sense agreement. All of us have five senses naturally, normally, but we also have a sixth sense, and it's just a sense. It's not a physical of the five: sight, taste, touch, hear. What's the other one? Smell. It's not the five physical sensations. There is a sixth sensation in which covenant lives, and it's one that you don't feel physically all the time, or you don't see visually, or taste, or even hear it audibly. What was the other one? Or smell it, nostrily. Is that a word? But you sense it in your spirit. You can walk into a house, a room, and your spirit senses something like your puppy does. And in that spirit, which is with you all the time, there is a living, walking, thriving covenant that we often ignore, and we shouldn't. I'm learning to pay more attention to the covenants I have with my own divinity, with my own access to otherness and etherness. I sense something in another physical reality. It's like going with your gut level. What my grandmother used to call her first mind. I should have followed my first mind. My first mind. How many minds you got? My first mind. When I go shopping, I usually, if I'm going shopping, I don't like to go shopping, so I go ready to feel and get out of there. I used to go ready to steal and get out of there. But I go in the mall, I go in a store, usually the first thing I'm attracted to, I may check around if my wife was there, or Madge cannot make her mind up on nothing. I like to go shopping by myself. They will look at 15 different outfits and usually come back to the first one that drew your attention. Because I don't like to hang out in the mall all day. I mean, I know a lot of people do. So I like to go. I'm led in the grocery store, just start grabbing stuff. Now, some people are very careful. They're going to check prices and compare prices, and they're going to be scrupulous. You may save a few dollars by doing that. I'd rather save the time. That's just me. And now, if I see something that's on sale, or what do you call it? Not on sale, but discount or markdown or something, I just automatically buy it. The cheaper thing doesn't bother me, like soap and stuff like that. Who cares? Toilet paper, just get it. When it comes to a steak or something a little more, you might be a little bit more, but toothpaste, just get it. Now, I have a special brand that I'm used to getting, but if somebody gives me another one, I'll use it too. Talk to me, somebody. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, which means calm resolve, resolution, ultimate resolution, to seek the truth in love. That means with compassionate caring. It's not just a random term. And to help one another. Notice the words in that covenant. Here's our great covenant: to dwell together in peace, seek the truth in love. That's part of it. And to help one another. Peace, love, and others. Say it. Peace, love, say it again. Peace, love, and other. That's the contract we have. First with ourselves, and then with others. James Villa Blake wrote that in the 1800s, an American Unitarian minister. He was an essayist, a playwright, a hymn writer, and a poet. And he went to Harvard College, but that's what he wrote, and it's all over the movement right now. I'm in agreement with it. The power of agreement, the covenant, the words covenant, coven, convene, convention, again, all have the same rudimentary concept. They all refer to agreement or agreeing to come together, at least to come together, combining or entering contract and contact with others in a cooperative, committed, and devoted manner. That's what church really is. And we go down the street to B'nai Emunah and to the synagogue, or we can go down that way to a Methodist church or a Baptist church or a Presbyterian church or Episcopalian, or just to the local club down there that's already, if they sell drinks this early in the day, I don't know. Some people, their covenant is with the bar tender and the little dark room. And whatever happens to them when they're sitting at a bar, I've never sat in a bar in my life, at a bar in a dark room with people I don't know. I've never sat in there with people I do know. So I have a judgment about it. My covenant was that I would never, because when we were kids, we were taught that you're not supposed to go there. So mentally, even though I'll have a glass of wine, and if Majesty fixes it, it might be something else. And so I'm cool with that part of it, but in my mind, it's still a dark place that I'm not supposed to be. And if I find you there, I judge your character. Not my new person, but the old guy says, what are you doing in here? Or if I go in there, I say to myself, what are you doing in here? I have a covenant. I don't even like the covenant with judging, being judgmental, prejudicial, prejudging you because you didn't come to church, or you went to that church, or you wore that, or you didn't wear that. These are covenants. Some covenants are worth breaking. Some of you have made covenants with something with which you need to break covenant. You need to lose your commitment to that particular part of your personality. I'm still purging, still going through that in my own character based on the way I was raised, my background, my culture, my ethnicity, my nationality, my religious persuasions, my spirituality, my psychology, my theology, all of those things mixed together to create certain covenants with or without your permission. So study the covenant that you've made. And study the ones that you're living with, by, and through, that you may disagree with and you no longer need it in your life. You needed it 25 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 60 years ago, but you don't need it today. I'm breaking covenants with things that no longer serve me. I'm leaving them to the side. And I'm cool with it. I'm okay with it. It doesn't work anymore. The Hebrew word for covenant is bara, come from the word berith, that means to cut or to create or to cut, like a branch for a builder. It's like building something. To cut covenant, to make it or do or dispatch. Not good, the scripture says, not good that man should be alone or all alone. You need covenant with something other than yourself or someone. It's not good. It means it's not best for us to be all alone. We need connectedness. We need connection. We need covenant, first with ourselves and with others around us. If you can be a loner, it's okay. Sometimes you're a loner because you're insecure. Sometimes you're a loner because you're very confident. You don't really need a lot of time and attention from people. If you're a loner for strong reasons, that's good. If you're a loner for weak reasons, work on that. Why are you ashamed or freakish about or timid about going around other people? I don't feel comfortable around people I don't know. How many do you know? Who do you know? Who's your best friend? Who do you hang with? I like to be by myself. I understand that too, but sometimes you say that because you're afraid to be with me or somebody else. I don't know, I'm just a loner that way. I'm always by myself. And everybody you get with, you have a sign that says, go ahead and leave me. Everybody else has. You don't say that, but that's an abandonment spirit. You have this attitude that everywhere you go, it's like, kick me, hurt me. My last husband did the same thing. My last girlfriend didn't like me, so I'm sure you ain't gonna like. You send that signal out. Break that covenant. Make a new commitment. I'm liked, I'm loved. People want to be around me. You have to say that, especially when, and the most liked, loved people wrestle with that. They're in pulpits, they're on stages, but off the stage, they're awkward, uncomfortable, imprecise, can't make a decision, insecure, scared, and they leave the platform and go to a drug, something to calm them down. They leave the platform and the crowds, and they find the closest bar, the closest quiet place where they could shoot a joint, smoke a joint or go to a joint. But they're wrestling, and I'm not putting that down. I'm saying you should know why you do that and decide when it's appropriate or inappropriate. Talk to me, somebody. This is the covenant we have with diversity and our own differences. Part of you wants to be high, and part of you may want to be drunk. Part of you may want to be arrogant. A coven is traditionally associated with the idea of a group or a gathering of witches or sorcerers who meet regularly. It is also, in sometimes more derogatory way, it's a reference to some secret, covert, or close-knit group of associates. They have a coven there. It originates from a Latin word that translates to convene, or to whatever is convenient, to convene or make convention, have convention with. And I want you to pause a moment and reconsider, as I am, what covens are you convening with? Or what covenants are you making and establishing? Are they breakable? Are they bonding or binding? Why are they there? Who put them there? Who authorized them? Who authorizes them to come out of latency and become kinetic? I have a covenant with sugar. I love it. It's poison. But I love sweet things and sweet people. I love cookies and pies and cakes and candy and ice cream. I love walking out that door. I try to pay any attention to all them donuts and things. There was a day, and if I give my mother permission, she'll collect all of them and nobody will notice it, and we'll take them home. Because mama don't believe in wasting nothing, not even air. I have a covenant with my mom. None of us have perfect parents or had perfect parents. We've sat and talked about hers. And I know her parents' my dad's parents. I know my mom and my dad. I have siblings. I have a wife and children. I have people that I work with all the time who have opinions about me and about whom I have opinions. The question is not about love, ever. It's always about like. Because there's a lot of people you love that you don't like being with. I've always loved my parents and liked being with them. I wrote that my mama's the sweetest and the most welcomed, wanted, and worthy nuisance I've ever had in my life. My kids are a nuisance. My wife is a nuisance. My siblings are a nuisance. Y'all are a nuisance to me. Everybody is a nuisance, but it's a nuisance that I choose to embrace and love. I'm a nuisance to me. I wish I could put me in a room and close the door and give me some rest from me. Talk to me, somebody. But it's a welcomed, committed, covenanted, contracted nuisance. It's the nuisances that I don't make covenant with that I don't want to around. Talk to me, somebody. All you single people. All right, that's enough. What nuisance are you, or what nuisance are you avoiding? You got to understand, if you want to be with somebody, you have to be willing to interrupt them and be interrupted. Wrap your arms around yourself. Interrupt yourself right now. What are you willing to allow to interrupt you? Love can be interruptive and disruptive. So can like. I'm interrupted with love. It's a part of who I am. It spurs me and provokes me and moves me to care. Just helping get two parties together, one for my baby girl. I remember holding and hugging her, feeling her first breath. I'm not looking forward to the day when I hear her hold my mom's last one. That could come. I remember holding Julian the first time. My dad was there, and then I handed him to my dad. I wasn't thinking at that time as I held my son the first time and feel his little heartbeat and smell the sweet little baby breath, that only a few short years later I would hold my dad and hear his heart beat and hear his last breaths. The bond is still there. The covenant with him. Madge took the gravestone, a marker, by herself, pulls it all the way down to the back of our yard, puts it there with flowers around it, and made it, because Daddy's body, you know, we cremated him after we gave his body to science, so we just have that. So we have some ashes, and but she made a little thing for her granddaddy around some flowers behind our yard. She did it all by herself. It's very heavy. She didn't ask anybody for creative ingenuity or to help her at all. She just did it. Now you have to think, what about she has a covenant love for her grandfather, and she has for her grandmother and her mom and dad and her sibling brother. So when you hold yourself, know this, somebody has a covenant with you. The people who love you, even if they seem not to like you, need you, want you. They don't call, they don't come around. You think they really hate you. They don't know how to love you accurately. There's some people you really, really love that you don't necessarily need to see often. And you haven't seen them often. And it might be a sibling that you used to play checkers or cards with, or hopscotch or jacks. Work on correcting covenants that are awkward, or addressing them in a way that's meaningful. This is the personal development I think is important to all of us. Now shake that energy around like this. Ooh, I'm getting stagnant. Oh, Jesus. You mean I gotta call him? Come on. Gotta call him, I gotta check. Don't wait till somebody dies to love them and to look to them. I look to you. Do this stretch, come on, real good. I love doing that. You're putting out energy. You're shifting the bones around. Have a covenant with yourself to breathe, to stretch, to expand, to extend, to reach out. Don't get cornered and stay in the corner. Talk to me, somebody. I'm coming out. I'm loosing myself. I'm shaking myself. I'm enjoying my own divinity. I'm walking with myself in agreement. And I'm getting better at it all the time. Come on, go ahead and clap your hands. It's all right, because you're clapping basically for yourself. I'm going to do this thing. I got to do this thing. I'm bound to do it. I'm committed. I'm covenanted. I'm contracted to do me and to do me well. If you ask me what I wanted most in life, I'd say I just want to be accurate, precise, and exactly me. That's a good feeling, because it involves you. It includes you. I can't exclude you. I love you. Peace and blessing, healing and wholeness for all of us. In the name and nature of all that's good in God. Thank you, Lord, in Christ. Amen. Peace.
You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. Everybody sing, come on. You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. Take somebody's hand if you can, would you? You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256 or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.